Sup, you beautiful bastards. Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday. Welcome back to the DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into this. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is the just pure insanity that is the Shane Dawson controversy. Now, for those that don't know, Shane Dawson is one of the few old school YouTubers that is still around, stronger than ever, massive on YouTube, podcast world. And I normally save my opinion for the end of stories like this, but it is incredibly important for me to throw this out. This whole situation is character assassination through out of context clips. And the reason it's incredibly important for me to say that at the beginning of this story is there are so many places that are seemingly fine with putting the facts of the situation at the ass end of their story and just padding it with accusations. Twitter put out an official Twitter moment on this story with the headlines. There's multiple because they changed them. Shane Dawson denies pedophilia allegations, and people are accusing YouTuber Shane Dawson of pedophilia. And then in that Twitter moment, the majority of the tweets that they feature are people just bashing on Shane. So the question becomes, why did this story become a thing? So yesterday a video came out from this channel called Pop Blast, which I'm fine mentioning because the account has now been shut down. And they put out a video titled, Shane Dawson is a pedophile, here's the proof. Later changing the title to, I think Shane Dawson is a pedophile, here's my proof. And here are some of the pieces they feature.
This child was probably 6 years old, and I was taking a picture of something, and the kid turns to me and goes, "Oh, are you Instagramming?" And the 6-year-old girl goes, "Oh, how many followers do you have?" "I have 125,000.
No.
And she shows me her Instagrams, which are like, first of all, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like, she's like sexy.
It then goes on to say his co-host is so uncomfortable.
Oh, let me explain.
Oh God.
Here's my justification for pedophilia.
I can't.
Here's the worst part of it. I actually went to Google and I'm like, I don't want to see.
You could get arrested.
I know, but I just wanted to see like, okay, let me pretend like I'm a pedophile for a sec. So I typed in naked baby. First of all, they were sexy. Okay, back to the Instagram. So I look at this little girl's pictures, and
They also bring up that he invited a young, talented girl to his home.
I'm gonna find that little girl. I'm gonna bring her to our house. Time to meet the star.
Talking about another young child that was in one of his videos.
We need to hold hands for this?
Okay.
Just to be safe. We're gonna be together forever. Okay. He knows you like Jesus. Oh. All right, give me a hug. I love you.
I love you too.
And the video ends calling for a boycott of Shane Dawson. So Shane responds, he says, obviously I'm not a pedophile. These clips are taken out of context. And I want to focus on the out of context stuff first. One, the first thing you need to understand is that old school Shane Dawson was all about edgy shock factor humor. I mean, this is a guy that anytime he pops up in the news, his past gets thrown in his face and he has to say, I apologize then, I apologize now. But with that clip where he was justifying pedophilia, he prefaced that by saying this.
First of all, let me just say, having sex with children or touching children or anything of that nature is terrible, and you should not do it.
But around the part where he said he was Googling naked baby, the attack video on him didn't include what he said right after.
So I typed in naked baby. First of all, I don't understand why anybody would be turned on by that. But
That's the first good thing you said.
But they were sexy. I'm kidding. Okay, back to the Instagram.
As far as the young talented girl, the attack video oddly kept out the fact that her entire family came over. As far as the 9-year-old boy, he was a paid actor whose mother was on set the entire time. And I do feel like it's important to separate these two arguments as far as context and shitty jokes. Shane Dawson, in that attack video, is being misrepresented. He was making shitty, edgy, shock factor jokes 6 years ago, and it's being represented as him just saying this casually. Like back in the day, Shane Dawson did blackface to be shocking. And then connected, but separate from that, is the issue of, is the shitty joke okay? And I'm saying shitty joke because even Shane Dawson has called them shitty jokes. And this is what he had to say on that.
I'm going to apologize first. I am sorry that I used to make really shitty fucking jokes. I am sorry that I was so fucking like insecure and like playing this character, this guy who's like crazy and will say anything and like tries to make people laugh by shocking them. That was my thing. That was what I did on YouTube. A lot of people now don't know that.
I feel like that explanation feeds into a debate that we've had several times over the past few years. Should something someone said or they tried to make a really crass, disgusting joke, should that follow them? Or should we, if it's the case, celebrate that someone has changed? They grew past it. They also acknowledge that it was messed up, it was wrong, but they've grown. That ultimately comes down to you as an individual. And I want you to understand that if I legitimately thought that there was even an ounce, like a possibility that Shane Dawson could be a pedophile, I'd be the first person to go after his throat. Longtime viewers of this show know that as far as child molesters go, I think the punishment should be set that person on fire. And as far as pedophiles go, I say ship them to an island. I don't want them around me or mine. I know I get shit for that because some people say it's just not very progressive. You're not thinking of what that person's dealing with. And to that I say fine, label me ignorant. I don't want that person around anyone I care about. But that aside, the story then gets weirder. The story starts to become about Pop Blast, the channel that posted the original video. They end up removing the Shane Dawson video and then just begin acting erratic. They start off uploading a video that has a series of numbers, it's code, it spells out they made me do it. The video is a still of an email that read, as you know, his comments have caused another expedient uproar in the general public. Make a video around 4 to 7 minutes long and use the following footage we have collected of Shane Dawson to label him as a pedophile. That's followed by a video that has a still of what looks to be a PayPal screen, $6,500 from Jeffrey Oscar Levin. That name's notable because that is the name of Logan Paul's manager. There's another video in code that says, I'm returning the money, it was not worth it, I'm sorry. Then there was a video of a mother and son.
Say, we know you're not a pedophile, Shane Dawson. Say, we're sorry, the internet's so mean.
Then they uploaded a series of videos that were old and stolen content, Rothschild conspiracy videos, old creepy videos, and eventually the channel was taken down. And so as you might imagine, all of a sudden there were all these conspiracy theories. People saying, oh, okay, Logan Paul's manager was behind it all. The general idea of the theory being Logan Paul's manager paid for a YouTube channel to make a hit piece on Shane Dawson, so the YouTube community and the news coverage around YouTube would change from Logan Paul and the horrible stuff that he did and shift that focus to Shane Dawson so that Logan Paul could return clean. But here are some problems with that. One, the so-called evidence is a screenshot from a source that has already lied about and misrepresented Shane Dawson, so why wouldn't they do it to another person? Especially because they put out a piece like this that could get them sued to hell and back. And so they create this conspiracy theory. Also, anyone can use a fake name on PayPal. This channel had a good number of subscribers, probably made a decent chunk of money, could have easily PayPal'd themselves, and that's without saying that this could have been a photoshopped image. People also pointing out that on PayPal normally there is a currency symbol. People also pointing out that in that number they use a comma rather than a decimal point, so that might give us an idea of where this person is. But there's no actual real evidence there yet. Even Shane Dawson himself saying he doesn't think it's Logan Paul or his team and adding, I genuinely think someone was trying to make a conspiracy theory about me in real time, uploading clues, hints, etc. I don't believe Logan's people had anything to do with it. It seems almost scripted. It's all very fascinating. Gotta love the internet. There have also been some people saying that maybe Shane Dawson was behind this. He stirs up a drama, he becomes more popular. But honestly, that's one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard. Even if it's just an accusation, a baseless accusation, there are now easily searchable headlines that pop up across the internet that have Shane Dawson and pedophilia in the title. It's incredibly damaging. People that are paying attention to the facts and they're looking into it further, yes, they know the truth. Guy 6 years ago said some stuff that was taken out of context. A lot of it was just super edgy jokes that he regrets. But for passerbys, the general public, they are now, even if they're not actively broadcasting it to the world, they're going to associate Shane Dawson and pedophilia. And I really think it needs to make us all think, whether it be myself, the people running that really, it felt like a hit piece Twitter moment, the outlets that jumped on every piece as fast as possible, just to even the general public. We can't be this reckless. Truth needs to still matter. But with all of that said, I pass the question off to you. What is your takeaway from this chaos? I'm just blown away. We need to talk about something more positive. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome brought to you by the sports shirt. A shirt that says, I don't exactly know what a playoff is, but thanks for inviting me. I also agree that your team is far superior than the other team. Comes in shirt, hoodie. You can put it on a pillow so when people come over, they know you care about sports. And so if you want to snag one of those while you can, or any of the other shirts we sell, just go to shop.DeFranco.com. I'll include a link in the description down below. And the first bit of awesome is actually if after you finish this video, you want kind of a second Philip DeFranco show. Yesterday we were doing a frame test for the podcast that's coming back, one of the news shows that we're launching soon. The story kind of fell into our laps, and it felt like kind of a more conversational way to talk about the news. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can check it out. Also don't mind the table, the Costco chairs, the lights, everything's changing. It's literally just frame for graphics. Then an awesome that I am unjustifiably excited about, Mario Tennis Aces is coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's going to have a story mode. Also Dark Souls Remastered is coming to the Nintendo Switch, but tennis, yes please. Then we got the Season 5 teaser for Silicon Valley. Then we got some awesome from Thrillist with their series Job Goals, where they feature a guy who smokes weed for a living. Which I will say gives me so much more respect for so many of my friends who just do that shit pro bono. And if you want to see the full versions of everything, I just shared the secret link of the day, anything at All links, as always, are in the description down below. Then an update to the Logan Paul controversy we've been covering the last week. YouTube has made two big moves. Yesterday, just after the show went up, YouTube released an update on the further consequences they had for Logan Paul. A YouTube representative saying, in light of recent events, we've decided to remove Logan Paul's channels from Google Preferred. Additionally, we will not feature Logan in season 4 of Foursome, and his new originals are on hold. And I will say, this is actually a pretty big move on YouTube's part. While Logan Paul has continued gaining subscribers in spite of, and maybe a little bit because of, this controversy. And I don't think it would be too crazy to imagine that a lot of his revenue probably comes from things like his merchandise. Removing Logan Paul from Google Preferred instantly hits him in his wallet. For those that aren't familiar, if you're part of Google Preferred, you get top tier CPMs. You get paid great ad rates. Google Preferred, as described by Google, are packages of channels where brands can share their messages alongside some of the most engaging and brand safe content on YouTube. Adding brands get access to among the top 5% of content on YouTube. And so they're booting Logan out of that, and now his CPMs will be like a lot of us other normies. And so in response to this, while I do still have an issue with YouTube saying they acted accordingly and not saying, you know, we're doing this all after the fact, this is all reactionary, I do see this as potentially a good first step. The only thing I'm concerned about is if you look at YouTube's history, when they're reacting to situations like this for the rest of us, when they try to do better, they often don't do it with finely tuned instruments. They don't go attack a situation like a sniper. It often feels like they'll lob a nuke. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. And then let's talk about the update around the H&M coolest monkey in the jungle controversy. We talked about this earlier this week. There was a ton of backlash when H&M's UK site posted this photo. Black child model in a hoodie that says coolest monkey in the jungle. The other options for the shirt included a white child model, but his shirt said he was an expert. And in response to this, there was a ton of backlash. People saying it was racially insensitive, it was ignorant. We saw celebrities like The Weeknd and G-Eazy and their partnerships with H&M. And following all of this, a woman claiming to be the mother of the child model has spoken out. The mother, Terry Mango, writing, am the mom, and this is one of hundreds of outfits my son has modeled. Stop crying wolf all the time. Unnecessary issue here. Get over it. That's my son. I've been to all photo shoots, and this was not an exception. Everyone is entitled to their opinion about this. I really don't understand, but not because I'm choosing not to, but because it's not my way of thinking. Sorry. And as you'd expect, the response to this was mixed. Some applauding her comments. Seen comments like, I give props to the H&M model's mother for taking a stand against the outrage. Get over it is some good advice I feel we all need. But there are also many still bothered by it. Lincoln Anthony Blades tweeting, I might sound rude here, but I frankly don't give a shit about what the mother of the little boy in the offensive H&M sweater thinks. I honestly don't care. Whether she hates it or loves it, it doesn't erase the ignorance behind it. Now, as far as does the mother's response change your view of this story, I pass that question off to you. I'd love to know. And rather than debating the point of is it racist, is it not racist, I mean, we talked about this in greater detail in a previous episode. If I could get an additional piece of information, I would like to see a staff photo of the people that work for H&M in Sweden. The ad played in the UK, the staff is in Sweden. Because I have a feeling that if you saw that photo, there'd be a lot of similar looking faces. Like, obviously this isn't their full creative team, but when I went to H&M's corporate website, this is their board of directors. And if you are an international brand, it would benefit you to have an international staff, a more diverse staff. I'm not saying quotas and all that, but just someone who could go, hey, from your point of view and life experience, there may be nothing offensive about this image, but to a certain group of people somewhere, this is the storied history of why this certain group of people might have a problem with this. And the reason for that is you can't control how people react to something. The intent doesn't matter. The perception matters for the individual. But that's where I'll end this one, and it was just very interesting to watch the fallout from this situation. And then let's talk about why Memphis megachurch pastor Andy Savage is in the news. So while you're most likely well aware of the hashtag #MeToo movement, it's at the forefront of the media right now, there are also more specific branches. We've seen the hashtag Time's Up, but there's also the hashtag Church2 and hashtag Silence is Not Spiritual. And those last two are working to shed light on the assaults and abuse that happen in churches and congregations, and really focusing on the power that these church leaders have over their congregations, also how that power can be abused and then covered up. And as part of this more specific movement, we meet Jules Woodson. On December 1st, Woodson sent an email to Pastor Andy Savage with the subject line, do you remember? Writing, do you remember that night you were supposed to drive me home from church and instead drove me to a deserted back road and sexually assaulted me? Do you remember how you acted like you loved me and cared about me in order for me to cooperate in such acts, only to run out of the vehicle later and fall to your knees begging for forgiveness and for me to not tell anyone what had just happened? Well, I remember, hashtag #MeToo. Then on January 5th, Jules Woodson told the story of her sexual assault to a blog focused on dissecting Christian trends, including abuse. And in it, she detailed the event and the subsequent cover-up that she feels the church participated in. And these events occurred in 1998. Woodson was 17, she was in high school. Savage was 22, he was in college, he was the church's youth pastor. She explains that Savage offered to give her a ride home since it had gotten late, but instead of taking her directly home, Savage took a detour down an isolated dirt road. She said he told her that they were building a church, he had a surprise for her, but once they got to the location, she said he parked, he turned the headlights off, and quote, suddenly Andy unzipped his jeans and pulled out his penis. He asked me to suck it. I was scared and embarrassed, but I did it. I remember feeling that this must mean that Andy loved me. He then asked asked me to unbutton my shirt. I did. He started touching me over my bra and then lifted my bra up and began touching my breasts. But then after a few minutes, she says Savage stopped. He exited the vehicle, got down on his knees, and with his hands up on his head said, oh my God, what have I done? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You can't tell anyone, Jules. Please, you have to take this to the grave with you. But ultimately, Woodson ends up deciding to tell the assistant pastor about this. But she said his response was along the lines of, so you're saying you participated. Saying not only did I suddenly feel this immense guilt for doing what Andy had asked me to do, but I also started to feel that this was my fault somehow because I didn't stop him. The assistant pastor then tells her that he would talk to Savage, the church, Woodson's mother. He also told her that there should be no contact between her and Savage. But on the following days, Woodson noted that it seemed that there were no actions taken. In fact, all she saw happen was there was a 2-day event at church known as True Love Waits. It was all about abstinence both in the physical sense and thoughts. And following this, she decided to speak up to her female discipleship group. And that appears to be why Savage ended up leaving the church. But she says for the most part, while there were rumors and some people talked to other people, most of the congregation didn't really know why Savage left. And so all of that then brings us to Andy Savage's Sunday service. And Savage talks about this assault, or as he calls it, this incident. And I'll link to the full video down below, but here are the highlights.
I regretfully had a sexual incident with a female high school senior in the church. I apologized and sought forgiveness from her, her parents, her discipleship group, the church staff, and the church leadership who informed the congregation. In agreement with wise counsel, I took every step to respond in a biblical way. This incident was dealt with in Texas 20 years ago, but in the last few days it has been presented to a wider audience. I was wrong and I accepted responsibility for my actions. I was sorry then and remain so today.
Also, it's only been said so far one point in this highlight cut, but he lays it on really hard that he wants you to know this happened a long time ago.
More than 20 years ago. This is 20 years ago. Happened 20 plus years ago. It's 20 years ago. And 20 years ago.
Here's the moment it ends.
I'm sorry. And I humbly ask for your forgiveness. I love you all very much.
He just got a standing ovation for saying that he's sorry that he sexually assaulted a member of his congregation. Understand, what we are talking about here is a gross and disgusting abuse of power and position. I mean, this kind of abuse of power is why in Texas they have a law specifically about sexual assault and clergymen. It reads, a sexual assault is without the consent of the other person if the actor is a clergyman who causes the other person to submit or participate by exploiting the other person's emotional dependency on the clergyman. But unfortunately, this wasn't law at the time of the assault. So even though it is the current law, police might be limited in what they can actually do. Also, I have to say I have an issue with Chris Conley, the lead pastor at this megachurch. After Savage does his speech that is seemingly worthy of a standing ovation, Conley says this.
We are so grateful for your support. I know when you support Andy in that way, you are also supporting Miss Woodson.
When you're supporting the person who committed a crime, you're also supporting his victim. He then goes on to lead a group prayer, and he also wants to remind God that this happened a long time ago.
From the lingering effects of this sin 20 years ago.
Oh man. Now, as far as if there will be any fallout from Savage, it doesn't seem like he's getting any from his congregation. The publisher of his upcoming book have announced that they are canceling it. But I do want to pass a question off to you of what is your takeaway from this situation? Does the fact that it happened
20 years ago
matter to you at all? Yes, no, there's no time limit on someone being responsible for their actions. What's your opinion on the reaction from the congregation? And what do you hope happens here? I'd love to know what you think. And that's actually where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, if you like this video, you like what I try and do on this channel, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss these daily videos, which actually, if you did miss yesterday's show, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to watch our longer test video, click or tap right there to watch that. But that's it, of course. As always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.